This is All About Bitcoin, a show dedicated to all things, questions, and markets related to Bitcoin, little b for the currency, and Bitcoin, big B for the network. A collective journey to understand, apply, and use this innovation, all Bitcoin, all the time. I'm your host, Christine Lee. Let's have a live look at Bitcoin right now. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XVX index is at $42,189. Bitcoin slightly up. Trading pretty flat, though, up about 0.5% over the past 24 hours. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the CoinDesk brand, trusted globally as the leader in crypto news, events, and data.
The chart of the day is brought to you by Crypto.com, the world's fastest growing crypto app.
Bitcoin holding above the 41,500 resistance level over the weekend after a slide from $46,000 last week. In general, Bitcoin showing strength this month after a slide to yearly lows of $33,000 in January. The relative strength index levels showed readings toward the oversold level, suggesting an end to the weekend slide, according to CoinDesk's Sharia Malba. The weekend price action came as Bitcoin's hash rate surged to new all-time highs, according to analytics tool YCharts. Hash rate is a measure of the computing power required to mine blocks on the Bitcoin network. Some analysts believe hash rate to be an indicator of the price of Bitcoin, suggesting there may be some positive upside for BTC in the coming days, despite more somber sentiment in the markets overall. Bitcoin hash rate has increased by over 50% in the past year. As of July, miners based in the United States accounted for about 1/3 of the hash rate on the network. All right, let's take a look at some of our top stories. Moving markets, FTX US, the American subsidiary of global crypto exchange FTX, opening a wait list for its upcoming stock trading service. Meanwhile, Singapore's DBS Bank, which opened an institutional digital assets trading desk in early 2021, is planning on offering services to retail investors by the end of the year, its CEO saying on an earnings call Monday. Finally, BlockFi will register its high-yield crypto lending product with the SEC as part of a $100 million settlement over its controversial interest-bearing accounts. Meanwhile, the U.S. Treasury Department, in a letter sent to a group of senators on Friday, signaled that crypto miners and stakers won't face tax reporting obligations that will be implemented for exchanges. The letter addresses crypto industry concerns from last year's infrastructure bill that broadened the definition of a broker, citing significant differences between traditional securities brokerages and digital asset miners, as well as the undue tax reporting burdens for providers that don't collect customer information. Separately, representatives of India's cryptocurrency industry met with senior finance ministers to clarify a new crypto taxation policy. Finally, Singapore's state investment fund TEMASEK, one of the largest investors in the world, has sold off its modest $2 million position in COINBASE, according to its latest SEC filings. COINBASE's stock has declined about 40% since its initial public offering last April. The exchange suffered an outage yesterday, shortly after airing a commercial during the Super Bowl. Last Friday, pseudonymous white hat hacker Tree of Alpha notified the exchange of a vulnerability in its trading systems that could have been, quote, potentially market nuking. CoinBase temporarily suspending trading on its new advanced trading platform to resolve the bug. All right, and Twitter joining a $20 million funding round for Bitcoin payments provider OpenNode. The round, which valued OpenNode at $220 million, can also included well-known venture capitalist Tim Draper. And joining us now to discuss is John Held, head of strategy at OpenNode. Hello there, Josh. Thanks for joining us. So, off the bat, did OpenNode approach Twitter or did Twitter approach OpenNode?
I think the conversation, was serendipitous, and that the timing and the excitement around the space is something they intended to build as education and adoption continues to grow.
All right. So what are the plans for the latest funding raise?
Yeah, we're really excited to continue to invest behind our security, our compliance, and our engineering needs. We're seeing exciting growth, for distribution partners like other payment companies, exchanges, and supporting a range of digital wallets. And so those needs and growing demand to support multinational companies and consumers, it's really exciting times.
Is there any intention or plans to partner with Twitter or help them with their payments? Perhaps they'll be getting into Bitcoin payments?
We're working with a number of payment companies at this time to provide Bitcoin solutions and infrastructure to address that growing demand. And we really do feel that we're well positioned to go ahead and get that done.
No word on whether there's a deal with Twitter on the ground just yet. All right. So who is using Bitcoin for payments? Just, as you have an idea of the data out there in your service, so who's using Bitcoin for payments and what are they using it for?
We're seeing really a use by everyone everywhere. I mean, more specifically, platforms like Substack and empowering content creators to be paid directly by their user bases. We're seeing merchants that are driving large digital commerce platforms like Shopify and BigCommerce. We're also seeing businesses use it for peer-to-peer payments for everything from ticketing to digital goods purchases. And so it's exciting to see the broad use cases continue to grow in adoption.
And regionally, are you seeing some more use than others? And where do you concentrate your customer base?
So right now, there's a lot of activity, of course, in the Americas, but to us, Bitcoin and the Bitcoin economy is borderless, and it's meant to represent that inclusiveness that we feel it can. And so we're working with jurisdictions all throughout the world on a number of different industries. And so we're excited to continue to provide those use cases to build awareness for Bitcoin as a digital currency and as a means of creating payments and payouts.
You mentioned jurisdictions around the world. Can you name any regions that are particularly interested and where you just see a lot more activity?
We're seeing a lot of activity in Europe and LATAM, and we'll continue to be on the ground early to help with providing that infrastructure and those strategies to enable governments and multinational corporations that have users and consumers in all of those regions throughout the world.
Mm-hmm. How about stateside? What about talks in the United States? Do you find some states more welcoming than others?
For us, it's borderless. We don't want to make it a political issue, and we run a very compliant shop here, and so we're excited to continually be actively engaged with governments on the federal, state, and municipal levels to help with their understanding of the infrastructure that's powering the Lightning Network, and also people's accessibility to Bitcoin and digital currency.
I'd like to hear a bit about your outlook on Bitcoin, going forward.
To me, it really is. It's an opportunity whose time has come. I mean, Bitcoin itself, the networking effects are unmatched, and it's totally different from the previous kind of regulatory schemes we've seen. And so to me, if we can enable people throughout the world to be empowered to use this new form of digital currency to make purchases large and small, and to really encourage global commerce, it's an exciting time to be a part of that.
How do you see it working with, I suppose, other protocols, cryptocurrencies out there? Do you think that Bitcoin will win out among them, or it remains to be seen in the grand scheme of things?
To us, good question. For us, we started as a merchant service provider, and we always want to be protecting our merchants and our end users from unnecessary risk. And we're confident in the regulatory bodies that have put out various opinions around Bitcoin and really its risk profile as it relates to other altcoins. And so for us, we view it as the new base layer for global payments, and we'll continue to monitor altcoins. But right now, Bitcoin to us is front and center because the regulatory certainty is there, and we can be excited about it being a means for global payments.
Do you think it could eventually replace something like the dollar?
I think that's a bit far out in terms of any definitive timeframes. There's going to be a lot of regulation necessary to enable that. I think fiat currency continues to be Bitcoin can be the asset that is ultimately the underlying currency, but we'll still need to settle in local currencies to create the use cases, the adoption, and the frequency that users are going to want to be able to use their currency for purchases.
All right, Josh, thanks so much and congratulations on the latest raise. Thank you for joining us on the show. That was Josh Held, Head of Strategy at OpenNode. All right, that's it for All About Bitcoin. I'm your host, Christine Lee, and we'll do it all over again tomorrow at 3 o'clock in New York. Also join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for First Mover. You're watching CoinDesk TV.